really early morning. And as always, I am here to share an experience with you right after it's happened. Regardless of the time, regardless of whether we are in the middle of the night or the afternoon or whenever. Let me get right into it. By the way, this was an astral projection experience. Yes, I still do astral project. I know I don't have many experiences, at least recently on this channel, because mostly what I have done is to go into the beyond body. And for those of you who have followed the beyond body on my channel, it is a whole different thing. For me, at least from what I can theorize with the beyond body, it's happening on the physical plane in parallel universes and different places. Now, I can have amazing experiences, just as amazing, in these parallel universes as I do on the astral plane. But yeah, this was the astral plane. I actually went to bed very late. I was tired, been doing the normal thing, watching some Spanish programming, and of course, working on that as I do on a nightly basis. I work on my Spanish every single night and have been doing it, by the way, for about, 3 or 4 years or so that I've been doing that. So I work very hard on that, and usually it does tire my mind out. I was feeling a bit tired, so I was lying down. For those of you who care, I had storm sounds on. So that was in the backdrop. And my mind was in an extremely relaxed place tonight. Despite the craziness that's going on in the world, I was able to find that kind of sweet spot in order to be able to relax. Now, many times, again, I've talked about the fact that I've had a lot more beyond body experiences, and sometimes I don't know when the astral projection experience is going to happen. I know that in my mind, I was kind of communicating and putting things out there into the universe, as I always say or suggest that you do. And one of the things that I had said was, basically, guides, you're in control about what's going to happen with this. I said that I had a commitment, and this is one of my new things now, although I've talked about this before. I am now committed to observe more than than going out there and asking a bunch of questions. In previous beyond body experiences, of course, one of the things that has at times cut my experience short is when I start asking, where am I? What's going on? And all of the curiosity. We are all so curious as human beings, and I am just as curious, especially when I'm out there. I usually want to know, what is this place? What's going on? But I have now committed to observing. And I think it'll be helpful, because then I will be able to bring more back, and I will be able to, I hope, remember more. But one of the things is, when you go into the astral projection state, and when you're getting ready to leave your body, it is important to relax your mind. This is one of the most important things, because with your mind relaxed, it can't get in the way of what's going to occur. It can't get in the way of your expanded self, that part of you that assists you in being able to leave your body. As you know, your mind is there to deal with the everyday world, and when we astral project, I believe this can sometimes be confusing for the mind, which isn't used to that. The mind is used to the 3D world. It's used to certain elements. It's been in this world since you were born, and it's just used to certain things. And when we leave our bodies, we're going into a whole nother dimension, and this can be difficult for the mind to grasp. That's why it's important to relax it so it does not stand in the way. And that's what I was doing. But I was in a very relaxed state tonight. And there are times when you can relax your mind so much that you're not going to remember as much about the experience. And that's what I think occurred tonight, because normally with astral projection, I can remember the separation and then perhaps leaving my apartment and going someplace else. But then there are many times, especially because I think I've been doing this for so long, and I think this does matter. It does matter that you've been astral projecting for many years, because I believe that many times either I don't remember certain steps or I skip certain steps. I just go from one point to another. I go from being in my body, and once I hit that vibrational level, I'm gone. I'm out of here. I'm not even going to take the step of being in my apartment for a moment before and then leaving. I'm just in that other world. Now, what I recall is traveling and moving in darkness, but I don't recall the transition of separation. And of course, I don't recall necessarily all the vibrations, but again, there have been many experiences actually where I've just skipped those steps and gone straight out into whatever world I was going into. And tonight I ended up on a rooftop somewhere. And for some reason, it's so funny to me. I've been to Europe on quite a few occasions, and I really do enjoy Europe. But for some reason, wherever I was, it reminded me, or it had a sort of European sort of feel to it. Now, for those of you who may be listening to this from Europe, I do know that Europe is a continent, and I know that there are different countries within Europe, and each country has its own unique feel to it, right? They're not all the same. So I do understand that completely. And I can't find in my mind, maybe France is what I'm thinking of, and maybe some city in France or something like that. I'm not 100% certain. But that's the feel that I had. I was, though, on the astral plane, and maybe in this place that I was in the astral plane, that is the feeling that one gets, or maybe that was a place that was very similar. I don't remember much about the designs on this rooftop or what the building was or the building looked like that we were standing on or that I was standing on. There were others, by the way, when I was here, because I remember I was looking around and there were others. The one I remember, though, specifically was a young lady about 19, 20 years old. She looked European, maybe. She had straggly hair, though. And I don't believe she was wearing clothes. Now, again, the whole clothing thing is a 3D world thing. This is something that we worry about. But on the astral plane, I've seen those that have been clothed, and I do believe I've seen people that haven't had clothes on. And this is not an unusual thing to see people that are naked out there. Not an unusual thing at all. So this lady, I don't believe she was wearing clothes, although part of my mind thinks that at times she was dressed and at times she wasn't. But generally speaking, I just remember her not having clothes on. She kind of reminded me, as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about this, perhaps of like sort of almost like a hippie from the 60s or something. Very kind of free love sort of thing. Yeah. And I was speaking to her, and somehow, some way, she felt familiar to me, although I don't ever recall seeing or meeting this lady anywhere. She did feel familiar to me, which tells me that perhaps my spirit being on some level knew this person. I don't know. But as we were talking, one thing stands out to me. Because again, many times when I leave my body or when I have a beyond body experience, there are times when I just don't remember all of the conversation. I think the gist of it was we were kind of going back and forth with one another, kind of joking around. I also think that a portion of our conversation was telepathic. And when you start getting into telepathy and what it really is, so funny because in the movies it's portrayed one way. Maybe you can hear a voice, and there are times when you can hear someone's voice in your head, but there's also mixed things in there, like feelings, and that's not necessarily words. And it's like you just understand what the person and is saying to you. You just understand it, and it's not in words. The person doesn't project the words into your mind, or you're not hearing the words. You just know. That's all there is to it. So I think it was a combination of that. But now, for those of you, again, who have followed certain things with this, especially recently with my episodes, I've talked about having this desire to maybe visit a different planet here and there. Lately, it's been Saturn. I've been obsessed with it. I've just been thinking about, wow, I want to go to Saturn. Again, I never know why these things pop up in my mind. I just think, I want to go to Saturn. I want to see the rings. I want to go into Saturn's rings. I'm fascinated by it. Now, I have been to space before, and one of the things I commented was, hey, it's not that exciting being in space, honestly, if you are there, because it's just space, I mean, if you're not seeing an alien civilization, or if you're not seeing beings flying around or whatever, if you're just in space, it's just a place just like it is here. It's just a lot darker, by the way. But again, I've just been obsessed with Saturn. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I don't know how exactly I'm going to find Saturn. I could probably do this through the power of thought. But when I was speaking with this young lady, I thought, well, maybe she can take me there. So this part I do remember because it really made me laugh. I said to her, well, I really want to go to Saturn. Can you help me? Or can you take me there? And she says, sure. But that'll be $10,000. Now, I remember she said that. I don't know what someone in the astral plane would do with $10,000. I don't know why she was asking me for $10,000. I'm sure she was joking, guys. She was just joking around with me when she said it. But I do recall her specifically saying $10,000. Yeah, sure. I can take you for $10,000. I was like, no, that's okay. I'll just go. Because I remember we were having our conversation. I was standing on the rooftop, but she was just below me and she was floating around. And that's how I knew. Another thing, I knew we were on the astral plane because she was just floating, just kind of floating around. She wasn't leaving this place, by the way. She wasn't leaving the building. She wasn't flying off and coming back. She was just floating around it. And we were just talking. So I went ahead and I took to the air and I started flying. And I thought, well, it could be interesting to fly to Saturn just to see what it's like. But when I took to the air, guys, this was amazing. The stars, oh my God. The stars looked so beautiful. They didn't have the appearance that they have in the 3D world. It didn't look like that when I looked up at the stars in wherever I was. These stars seemed to be all clustered together, and they were so bright in the sky. They seemed so close. And I was just going straight up toward them, straight up into the air toward them. And it was so funny because I was thinking, and as I was approaching and I was going up and I was climbing higher and higher, I was thinking, this might take quite some time for me to get there. I don't know why I was thinking this, because in the astral plane, anything is possible. I would think all I'd have to do is just think it and I would be there. I know how to travel through the power of thought. And one thing that I've communicated to you has been, one of the things that I've communicated is that when I'm in the astral plane, the most practical way for me to travel is through the power of thought. When I say the power of thought, I mean picturing someplace in your head and then suddenly you go there. That's the way it is. You go from one place to another, traveling through the power of thought. And so as I was flying, I thought, okay, well, it was probably going to be faster if I think it. If I think about Saturn, and then I'll get there. So I closed my eyes in this place and I thought, I want to be in Saturn. And I started trying to picture it, but something wasn't right. Either that or I wasn't patient enough to wait, because I remember I was thinking in my mind, Saturn, Saturn, Saturn. And I was thinking, why aren't I getting there? Why aren't I seeing anything? Because everything was so dark. But of course, again, we're in space. So I did not end up seeing the planet. It was just darkness. And at some point, I was back. I opened my eyes back in the 3D world. It was instantaneous. And I looked around and I thought, okay, time to share it with you. That was my experience. Thank you so much for coming on another journey with me. And until next time, take care.